ladybugs having a picnic, grasshoppers flying high to the sky, bluebirds singing sweetly. This is the world around me, while I'm just picking flowers.
Hello, Let's Play community. I am Kristen Kalina from Mastermind Adventures. I'm here with Jennifer Romanat. I should have asked you how to pronounce your name.
That's exactly right.
That was right?
Yeah.
Nailed it.
High five for that one.
And Jennifer is a musician. She is a music teacher and a performer of children's music, and lives right here in Providence, Rhode Island. So I thought she would be a great person to interview for the group to help you think of ways, if you've got a kiddo who you want to get interested in music or is naturally interested in music, maybe some ways that they can really exercise that and kind of find offline ways to keep them engaged at home or in classes with somebody like Jennifer. Or even coming out to some of her performances, because she does that too. So thanks so much for being with us.
Thank
I really
you.
appreciate it. So tell, I gave a brief introduction, but talk a little bit more about you and your background and where you come from.
Well, my background, let's see, I've been doing music my whole life, really, whistling from the time I was 12 months old, I'm told.
Oh,
yeah. My
great.
parents were like, what in the world?
Wow.
So they, it's kind of an anomaly in my family just because my siblings were so athletic, up I came, and I was kind of always geared towards music and theater, and they were kind of trying to direct that a little bit. Putting on little neighborhood plays with my friends, just always trying to find an outlet to express that musical and theater creativity, in my life. So, but when it was time to go to college, that wasn't practical. So,
Right.
How are you going to make money? That wasn't necessarily coming from my parents. The ironic thing is, it's just more like what you hear in the world. Like, well, that's not something you can just do unless you want to be, go full force and, go into Broadway, which is something that I had dreamt of, but I also felt like I want a family too, and I don't know if I could ever, even at literally 18, I was thinking about these things, like, I don't know if I could balance those two things. That would be very hard. So anyway, I went in, my other love was social work, basically. I had a teacher that had really inspired me in high school, and so I went into that, and I still love it, But after being a social worker for a number of years, and after my kids were born, even just for a couple of years, I found it very hard to manage that schedule-wise because I was working with a lot of kids that needed me after school, So I thought, well, okay, I'm never going to be home for my kids, after school. So I started taking my kids to the Music Together program, which is in North Kingstown with my friend Barbie Beyer. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do. And so I started talking to her about it, and because I'd always done some form of theater throughout college. I largely supported myself, so I didn't have time to be in their theater program because basically they will tell you, you can't have a job, you can't have anything, you can't have a life, this is your life, And I was like, yeah, I need to pay my rent. That's not going to really work for me, So I was a singing waitress, which was really fun, and I was a singing telegram. These are the things that got me through college. Amazing. So I find it always ironic that I was like using music to pay my rent in college for something that I said was going to be the thing that I did.
Right, yes.
Doesn't really make sense.
Yep.
But and then getting right back to that when my kids were little again, saying, I think I'm going to start this. And we were moving up this way at the time. We were living in South Kingstown. And my friend Barbie was like, yeah, there's nothing. At the time, there was nothing in Providence. Like, literally nothing. Not even, like, any gyms or anything. Nothing like what we have today. So yeah, I started it, and half the class were my friends. Came up from South Kingstown because I was like, I need people in my class, please help me. And they came all the way up, and, so 4 people were my friends, and 4 people were people I didn't know. So I jumped in with that, but just the 8 people, and I was like, okay, at least I have a class, And it helps because Music Together is an international program, so people come looking for that. So, like, especially people from New York and Boston that move here, they're like, oh, let me just plug into the Music Together program that's familiar. So that name really helped me, you know, as opposed to just starting my own thing, you know. So I continue to stay with Music Together, not only because I believe in the program, I think it's a great program, but I do find that very valuable in that, you know, people really look for that connection. You know?
The brands, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's very helpful to them. So, I mean, I have people even moving across the world. They're like, oh, yeah, I did Music Together in Germany or whatever. You know?
Neat.
Yeah, so I've been doing that since, let's see, for almost 16 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Goes by fast.
I
In
mean,
a blink.
you blink.
Yeah.
Oh,
People used to tell me that when my kids were little, like, oh, it's gonna go by fast. That nothing prepares you for it though, because it feels in the moment, it feels like it's taking forever. You're like, oh my gosh, they're never gonna get over this phase, or they're never gonna, you know, oh, this is never gonna end. You know, I even remember being pregnant and feeling like, okay, this is my life now.
Yeah. I'm just gonna be miserable.
I'm just gonna be pregnant forever.
Yeah.
It's never gonna come out. But yeah, it does. It feels that way.
It totally does. I just posted on Facebook on my Music Together site about, you know, the days are long, the years are short.
Yes.
And you know, and I try not to be the old parent that tells parents that, because I totally remember, like, the days really do feel really long.
They do.
You know, the days can feel like years. You know, and then it is amazing that you just look back and you're like, what in the world? My kids are 17 and 19 and taller than me and having their own lives. It's just amazing. And I think that's a great stage too, of course. But it's just like, you really can't believe it.
No.
You can't help but say it.
Right. No, you
know?
really can't.
Yeah.
Because it's like unbelievable.
Yeah.
In the moment. So,
Yeah.
So tell me more about Music Together. So what is Music Together?
So Music Together is a music and movement program for infants through age 7 now. They have an older kids program, 5 to 7-year-olds. And they're caregivers. So in a class, there's about 12 families in a class, and it's a combination of finger plays and singing together, just sitting and singing together, and getting up and moving to the music, like feeling that rhythm in your body, and also feeling, playing around with various rhythm instruments. Like, we have these huge gathering drums that all the kids gather on, and parents. And it releases a lot of tension for the parents too.
Yeah, I bet that's true.
Yeah, I'm like, come on, parents, get it out,
That's your opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it really is
something.
great. They're like, oh, this is so therapeutic, And it's funny, always my shyer kids, like, that are sitting on their kids, parents' lap, they're like, it's really funny, and they're just like going at it. And rhythm sticks and egg shakers and, jingle bells and triangles. So we have all basic rhythm instruments so that we can really build that rhythm, and then the tonal aspect is us singing, it's not instructive in this, okay, Johnny, this is how you do the sticks. It's like, we're just doing it, and Johnny's going to jump in, however he's going to feel inspired to do that. There are no rules at that age. There are no, we're not trying to instruct them piece by piece, section by section. So it uses Music Together has their own music as well. They draw from other cultures from around the world, and that's one thing that drew me to the program, because I found musically, as a musician, I like the diversity. I like the diversity in meters that they use. It's not just this 2/4, 4/4 meter that a lot of children's music can tend to use, as if we think children can't handle anymore.
Right.
It's like, well, if you look at other cultures, other cultures are doing 6/8 meters. Well, those kids can handle it. Let's kind of mix this up a little bit. And so that our kids don't grow up like us thinking, oh my gosh, how do I do this, complicated measure, or meter. And so they draw from around the world, and I really love that aspect. And it's very pleasing with most of the music. I mean, you're always going to have the, vroom, vroom, riding in the car, here we go, here, those kind of repetitive songs, but that's also important. Both are equally important for the kids.
Right.
So.
Right. And now you also have your own children's CD.
Yep, I have my own children's CD called Just Pickin' Flowers.
And it's great, by the way. It's
Thank
really
you.
good. Yeah.
Thanks. And it's really inspired from the kids. I mean, so much of it is just observing them. Like one of my songs is called Me and My Shadow. And I remember the specific day that I created it. I was talking to a mom in my class out in the parking lot, and her daughter was just playing with her shadow. And I was just like, how magical is that? And we forget that as adults, you know? So the whole song is about her and her shadow kind of as friends, you know, and they're playing throughout the day. Because in her mind, that's exactly what's happening, you know?
Yep.
And a child's mind is, you know, we just lose so much of that as adults, you know, that kind of magic, you know, of just playing with your shadow. And we just think, well, that's, you know, that's for kids. Well, that's kind of a bummer that we lost that, you know.
Right.
We should incorporate all of that, you know, into our lives today. So that song, and then another song is called Bumblebee Variety Show, and Fletcher, my older son, and I were walking out, and this was just a few years ago, and he was, you know, in his teens, and he's like, Mom, look at that bee. There's one bee right here, and there was several others like this, and he goes, it looks like this bee is telling some jokes or singing some songs to the other bees. So we wrote Bumblebee Variety Show, and it's about that very scene of like, you know, the bees are getting up and, you know, putting on a little, you know, whatever their number is, you know. So I really tried to draw from the imaginations of children, because there's just such magic there, you know, constantly. It's never ending. They don't limit themselves in that way like we do as adults. So, and I find sometimes writing for children, we can tend to simplify it a little too much, thinking like, oh, that's a child's mind. It's like, no, look deeper, you know, look at what they're really seeing, you know.
Right.
So that's what I tried to do.
The power of their imagination.
Yeah, huge. I mean, it's huge. Yeah.
Right.
So.
How fun. What a great way to spend your
Yeah.
life.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And you also have a band we were briefly talking offline about, your girl band.
Yes, the Persisters!
Which I love in so many ways. Yeah, so talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so I'm in a band called the Persisters. It's me and 5 of my friends. And oh my gosh, we're having such a good time. We do some covers, and we write some of our own stuff too. And we always find the stuff that we write together we love more, because it's ours, you know. And you get to put your own stamp on it, and that creativity is just so, you know, when you're doing a cover, you can creatively spin it, but it's still somebody else's song, you know.
Right.
So so we really enjoy that. But, you know, we just have fun playing. One of our band members is a teacher at Rhodes Elementary School in Cranston, and they're doing the whole summer reading program this summer for all the libraries is Reading Rocks. And so the librarian was like, oh, do you think your band would come and play at the elementary school? And our drummer is already a rock star in her school. Like, literally everywhere she goes, Mrs. Weber, you know, like, they're just like freaking out the kids. It's so great. So we're like, yeah, that'd be so fun. So one of the things that we did that we were actually really proud of and had so much fun with is we wrote a song together before the gig, and we made it Mad Lib style, so that the kids, you know, and I said to them, like, we need help, we need your help writing this song. So we've got some of the pieces, we've got the melody, we've got some of the lyrics, but and when the reading teacher had written out our whole song on there, leaving blank spaces. And so we asked them, oh, give me a bird, give me, you know, and so we wrote this song together with the kids, and they loved it so much. I mean, it was so great. I mean, they just, to see that spark in them to create their own, you know, to have their words up there. You know, they're just like, my word was gumdrops. You know? It was so great, you know. It was really, really fun.
My gosh,
so, yeah,
fantastic.
so we do stuff like that, too, you know. Yeah. But we also just, you know, we do, like, real rock gigs at a bar, you know. Right. We have just as much fun with either, you know.
Right.
So.
And when did you start getting, I know you said, like, you were whistling at 12 months. When did you start in earnest, like, really practicing music?
So I'm the third child in my family. My parents were like, oh, what do you want to do, you know? I was like, I'll play violin. Well, you're not practicing, we're not paying for that, you know? So it was kind of like, they didn't really enforce practicing so much, and that was because they weren't particularly musical themselves. They just kind of, you know, I didn't really have the discipline myself to really follow through with it. I'd be like, you know, my own personal kids, like, you have to get through the hard stuff to get to the good stuff. Because if you hear a song that you want to play, you know, you're not going to start there, you know.
Right. Yeah.
You got to start with hot cross buns first, you
Yes.
know, and marry
Right.
a little lamb, you know.
Right.
And as much as that's not so pleasing to you, it's the foundation that's important, you know. So I felt like that was something that my parents didn't really, you know, and because I was the third kid, it's kind of like, we don't really have time to try to follow up with that.
Yeah.
Not blaming them in any way, shape, or form, because I
Yeah.
could have been self-disciplined in that way. But it wasn't something I developed until later, you know, and I taught myself. Actually, my husband helped teach me guitar when our kids were 3 and 1, which is not the ideal time to learn a guitar.
I would say that is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine that's true. Yeah.
Totally. So, but that was when I learned an instrument, because I'd always been a vocalist. I've been, the front person for bands and things like that too. I forgot to mention that. So, and you know, sometimes when you're in a band, sometimes the instrumentalist can be like, well, you can't play guitar. I mean, we already have. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, okay. You know,
Right.
It's an interesting dynamic that can sometimes happen, you know. In my band, it's not like that at all. We're like, hey, you want to play the drums? You do that. You know, we all kind of change it up sometimes, you know, and allow each other the freedom to kind of try other things. And, you know, and I tell them all the time, like, anybody else wants to take the lead, go for it. You know, I love that. So it's more of a collaborative kind of like, let's,
awesome.
you know, because that's important in music. It's important to be able to play, you know, like not just have this kind of rote memorization of notes and how to do things, but to be creative, you know, for anyone, whether you are good at music or not, you know what I mean, or you can carry a tune, just doing it and being able to play with it is for everybody, in my opinion, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So.
I love that. So this community, obviously we talked about a little bit, is really focused on parents looking for ways to give their kids offline alternatives to YouTube and Fortnite and Minecraft. I was actually very surprised, and I've talked about it a couple of times. We did a survey, and YouTube is like the number one thing people are saying their kids are spending time on.
Yeah.
For all different reasons, and that's not all negative. I think that, but I think breaking them away from that is sometimes hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So for you as a music instructor, you know, as a mom, you know, are there some great kind of go-to activities that parents can use to encourage that, like the musical ear or the playfulness in music and that sort of thing?
Right. Yeah, it's interesting because even over the years I've been doing this, of course, I gradually see like even babies holding a phone, you know, and the parent will give them, if they're changing their diaper, they'll give them the phone to play with, you know, to kind of keep them occupied, which I completely understand also because, you know, you're just trying to get that diaper on, you know what I mean? You're like, you don't want the poop to spread everywhere. You're just like, stay still, please. You know, I totally get it, but we forget that other things can work, like just singing in their face, you know, sing whatever song, you know, I'm changing your diaper.
Right.
You know, like you can make up your own little ditty about whatever and make googly faces and have that eye contact still while you're changing a diaper or cleaning your house or whatever the, you know, minutia of the day is. You can add that spice with music, you know, and so I think I think we all, of course, lean towards like, just take the phone, please, and be quiet, and so I can get this done, you know, instead of, those are all aspects of our life every day. All those little details of our life are there every single day.
Right.
And it's not to be, you know, for your kid to be entertained during that time. First of all, they're not necessarily learning that that's just part of life. You know what I mean? Sitting through a diaper change, you know, even if they're only 18 months old, you know. Right. Yeah.
This is my life now.
Exactly. I mean, it's all of ours, right?
Yeah,
and I mean, I tell my boys all the time, my 2 own boys, you know, we're parenting for the first time in this generation with this amount of technology at their disposal. And I'm honest with them, you know, we're like, we don't know what we're doing. You know, like we're trying to figure it out. We're trying to consult with other parents and try to figure out what the best measures are. But, you know, we did not have this kind of access at all, you know, like you guys do. So this is a whole new world that we're navigating. So sometimes it's going to seem like we're inconsistent, you know, and there's going to be times we're like, nope, no screens, we're done, you know, and there's going to be other times we're like, okay, let's all do this together, watch a movie, or, you know, play heads up with the, you know, because that's the thing. It's like, it's fun too, technology. Like those elements can also bring you together if you use them the right way, I think.
Right.
You know,
Absolutely.
and I think the same thing even with young children. There's different, ways that you can use technology that can be engaging, as opposed to just setting your child in front of it and hoping that they'll take care of that part for
Right.
you. Watching a YouTube video that they like together and singing along with it, or something that you think is funny, or whatever. That's all good stuff to gather around together.
Right.
I mean, that being said, we know what it's like to parent young children, and sometimes you just need a break.
Yes. It's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay.
And that's what I think too. Like, there shouldn't be a tremendous amount of guilt either,
Right,
but
absolutely.
I think there should just be a mind check, kind of like, oh, okay, maybe I don't have to give them the phone every time.
Right. Right.
I could mix it up.
Right.
I could, or, maybe I could have them help me sweep the kitchen instead of setting them in front of, a show or whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but there are times where you just need a nap.
It's true.
So,
Take the nap.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so if a kid seems like they're interested or they're musically inclined, and parents are not necessarily, like you said, your own parents were not terribly musically inclined.
Mm-hmm.
Is there like a good place for them to start with that? If they're, is there a good what are the kind of the best instruments to get kids started?
Right. So when they're little, I classes like Music Together are great, because it's really letting them be very creative with a number of different kinds of rhythm instruments. It's an immediate gratification, so to speak. Banging that stick, you're already getting the sound, as opposed to like trying to put your 2-year-old with a violin. It's like, they're like, this sounds terrible,
I hear a cat dying.
It's like, I never want to do this again in my life, So just those basic rhythm instruments are really helpful. Dancing, feeling that rhythm is really important. We forget that too, I think. We feel silly dancing as adults, and it's another thing that we can lose along the way. Just to be silly and free with that. I mean, the best influence you can have on your child is to not actually be good at an instrument. It's to just enjoy it. Or good at, enjoy music and by doing it in whatever way is for you. We have a culture now where everything needs to be measured by other people. Like, are you a YouTuber? Can you be good enough for everyone to get? How many hits can you get?
Right.
Are you going to be on American Idol, or whatever? Like, we have this Simon Cowell in our minds, lurking around every corner, like ready to judge ourselves, and so we don't play anymore. So I think those are really, really important aspects. Whenever a parent asks me about learning an instrument, because some people are like, I think I want to get them started now, and they're 2, and I'm like, I get that I get why you want to do that, but you don't want to take that creative play out of it. That exploration is very, very, very important at that age.
Right.
And as soon as you start attaching lessons to it, it becomes more rote, and it's going to take some joy out of it for them, because they don't understand at 2 and 3 years old, that's what you need to do yet. Like, that logic doesn't really work for them, their brains yet. Maybe even 5, I would say, is pushing it. I didn't start my kids till they were 8, because partly I knew that I wanted them to know what discipline was, and I felt like in their own minds, it's not the case for every kid. Some kids are just naturally more disciplined, and they're going to want to practice every, at 6 years old or whatever, which you just have to know your child with that. But it's starting. I try to encourage parents to start it when they are going to do instrument lessons, to start with what their kid's interest is. Everybody always wants to start them on piano. Totally understand, because that is like the groundwork for all, reading music, but if they really don't want to play piano, then, it should be something that they have the freedom to choose, one of my sons plays piano and he loves it. The other one wanted to start on trumpet, and drums. So he's definitely more of a rhythmic kind of kid. And it worked well for him.
Wow.
So yeah, I think encouraging them to choose something that they love, but letting them explore. So, sometimes music schools, like I know the Philharmonic Music School, they used to offer. I don't know if they do anymore, but they have like an instrument play, kind of like you can check out all different instruments and see what's of interest.
Oh,
because of
interesting.
course we don't all have violins, and we don't
Right.
we don't all have these things in our house for our children to explore. So if you can find things like that to really plug yourself into, and so that your child can explore those instruments with somebody who knows how to play them, that's a really key thing too, you know. So they
That's
can
interesting.
figure out what they want to play.
Right. So before they're really ready to start instruments, you think just exposing them to different kinds of music is probably best?
Oh yes, for sure. Yeah, all kinds of music is really good. I mean, of course, whatever you like too. I mean, I have one of my dear friends sang her son Thunder Road every night for, by the Boss, every night for a lullaby. That kid knew every single word of Thunder Road by the time he was 2 years old.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Isn't that great?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
So it's because again, if you love it, that love for music is going to really shine through.
Right.
So it doesn't all have to be classical. I think that's what what I want to say. Of course, if you like classical, absolutely expose them to that. But that can be, you can also like Queen, and it has the same elements of classical music. Right. I mean, the dynamics that they use are basically the same as classical. So it doesn't have to be one kind of music. It's kind of whatever you like and whatever you can have fun with.
Right.
But also maybe not judging music in general either. Like, oh, I hate country music. Well, you might not hate all of it. Like throw a song in there every now and then. Just to see what you think.
Right.
So mixing it up a little bit, and trying to expose into some world music is always good too. All different kinds of, because world music offers your child so many different meters from around the world. What I mean by meters is like the beat, and tonalities, like different ways of singing. Like you listen to Arabic music, it's like it's not. We don't even have some of those sounds, So if you're exposing your child to some of that, they're getting that in their brains. It's not sort of kind of connecting, and they're taking it in. So
Right.
yeah.
Oh, that's very interesting. Yeah. Do you have because that might be overwhelming. Like, do you just Google world music for children?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would recommend Putumayo.
Okay.
It's awesome. Putumayo World Music. And they have all kinds of playground CDs.
Oh, okay.
And they from all over the world. It's so great.
How do you spell that?
Yeah, I know. It's okay. Putumayo. It's Putumayo.
Okay.
Putumayo.
Okay.
And a portion of their proceeds go to charities too.
Neat.
And I know a lot of people don't have CD players anymore, but their CDs are beautiful. So if you do, I would recommend buying one that way.
Isn't that weird?
I know.
It's super weird.
Yeah, it is.
What? People don't have CDs.
Right.
But you know what? I don't even anymore. I mean, I have a collection, but it's sitting there,
Right.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah,
I had to buy an
Spotify.
external one for my computer because I was like, I don't even have one on my computer anymore,
Yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah.
I have one in my car, but I bet this is probably the last generation
I
of cars
think so.
that'll have them.
Absolutely.
So-
I know, I agree. I mean, with my own CD, Just Picking Flowers, I spent a lot of time thinking about what I was going to put on the,
Right.
There's a flower on the front that my friend's son made for her Mother's Day. It's made out of, it's guitar picks, and then the guitar string is interwoven, and so it looks like a flower, and then it's on, I put it on a nail for the picture on the front of the CD, and then it's got a tuner, like as the pedal, or as the leaf,
cute.
And then on the inside, it's one of my friend's daughters smushing her face into a flower. It's the best picture ever. I just love it so much. Her whole being is smelling this flower. And then in the back are my other friend's kids picking flowers, my neighbor's yard. So I always tell my families, I'm like, you can listen to me on Spotify, but missing all this
really cool.
missing all this
meaningful stuff.
Right. Yeah. And it's frankly Spotify for local artists and things. You're supporting them by listening to them, but
Right. But
they're
it's not the
getting
same.
0.00001
Yeah,
per stream, and that's not why we do it. It's for the money, of course. But you do want local musicians to continue making music.
Right.
So
Yeah.
even just to follow them,
Right.
follow your favorite musicians online, is helpful. So
Right. Yeah, no, it's a
world.
crazy, it's a crazy mixed up, upside down world for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
what if someone is looking for like a class like the ones that you do? What should they look for in a music class for different ages for kids?
Right. Okay. Well, the Music Together program is a mix. They have various programs, but one of the most popular is mixed age, 0 to 5.
Okay.
And the idea of that is kind of an old family style jamboree on the porch kind of a thing. Like, hey, we're all in this together, and whatever level you're at, is great. So you might have like a 5-year-old in with babies. But, and I tell that 5-year-old, hey, you're here to help me, and they love that, you can hand out the instruments or whatever. Yeah. The babies learn from him, or her. So when we totally segregate by age, sometimes we lose that kind of, gift that we're giving our children, like, you can help these little guys, it only happens in their own little families if they have siblings. But it's more of a community kind of like, feel to that. But they also do have classes just for babies. I don't personally have that in my center. I just do the mixed age right now. And then there's also 5 to 7-year-old, they call them rhythm kids or something through Music Together. And that helps develop their rhythm a little bit more, and their parents generally are not there. And you can kind of do a little bit more theatrical play with them, and because they're ready for that. They're ready to take all the concepts that they've kind of been learning since the time they were babies in a music class, and put it really into action. But it's still in an explorative kind of fashion, for them to be really creative in their own way. So yeah, I'd recommend, any number of those, whatever people are comfortable with. If you feel like some people do when they have a baby, they just feel they don't want older kids. They're like, you're going to step on him or, whatever. They get really nervous about that. So I would seek out a baby's class if it's for your own comfort level. The baby themselves doesn't really need that,
right.
I would say, but
they're a baby.
And they're not really socializing with one another.
Yeah.
They really do learn from those older kids because they're seeing an 18-month-old like, oh, that's what I'm about to do, and so, just like we walk and talk in front of our kids, we sing and dance in front of our kids. So some people may think babies are even too young to take to a class, but I would say definitely not, or even just doing stuff in your house. It's never too soon because, they learn from us constantly. They're soaking it in, they're absorbing, and they're taking it in, they're going to do it. And then instrumentation, I really think it's when a child can really, have the discipline to practice.
When probably the interest.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah. And maybe not, maybe it's not instrumentation, maybe it's theater. It's the same kind of concepts that they're using, or voice lessons or whatever, but just whenever they can grasp the concept of, oh, I need to work at this, and it's fun.
Right.
Those two things, then that's when I would recommend, you just know your own child and when they're ready. So
yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
So we kind of already talked about that question. I was going to have how to foster a love of music in kids, but we've really already talked a lot about that. What is your favorite kind of music?
Oh, so hard.
Don't make me narrow it down. Yeah.
My gosh, it's because so much of it depends on what kind of mood I'm in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is the amazing thing about music, right? It's like there's so much to choose from. If you're feeling a little melancholy, like on a rainy day like today, you might listen to a little Jack Johnson or whatever, But I don't know. I lean towards my own personal interests are like indie rock, like Ingrid Michaelson comes to mind. Like people like that. I like kind of that the flow of the music, the lyrics and all of that kind of stuff. It kind of speaks to my mind, But man, I could really throw on some 80s music and dance all over the house too. Always. Yes. I mean, and disco,
Yeah.
Say what you want. But even my son who went to high school, his prom, he was like, totally nothing against rap music at all. Like, I actually like a lot of rap music too. But it was hard for them to dance to it, And so he's like, oh, they just played a bunch of songs that, that we couldn't dance to. And then he mentioned some 80s song, I can't remember what it was, that I was surprised that he knew. He's like, then finally they put on, I don't know, I'm just going to say, Bohemian Rhapsody or whatever. And we were all like, finally, and they were all dancing around, So it still speaks to the 17-year-olds today.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also love jazz. I love to go to a good jazz club and just really let them, because there's so much improvisation there, and I love that, So it's really hard for me to choose just one, honestly.
No, that's good. And the boss is always good.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I think I just never like to get snobby about any kind of music, because I think all of it's so, it's people's own expression, of what they feel. And so that's what I can appreciate, when that's coming from a genuine place. And I can see that, whether it's rap music or classical, if it's coming from a place like, I love this and I love what I'm doing, it speaks to me.
Yeah. I'm not a huge rap music fan, but I was researching something the other day in exercise for us to use in one of our programs, and they quoted a poem that I think ended up being by Tupac.
Oh yeah! Oh my gosh, he's like really
flower
deep.
That goes through cement. Do you know that?
Yeah.
I had no idea. I was like, wow, this is really, really beautiful.
It really is.
And I didn't grow up with a lot. Well, I guess the early rap music was really not always the best either. I mean, we're talking Blondie, right? Eating cars. I don't know. That was like weird stuff. Or what was the other? There's another really funny one when early on. There was a really funny rap song. Oh, I'm blanking on it now, but it just wasn't quality. I'm just saying, like, it really wasn't. I mean, I did enjoy watching. Did you watch the Get Down?
No.
On Netflix.
I started to. Yeah, I need to finish it.
It was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, kind of watching the, because it's based in a little bit of history, and it's pretty cool. But it just wasn't my. I wasn't exposed to it. My stepfather was like hardcore into classic rock.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so, we had kind of grown up with, disco, and me and my little bitty brother, we learned how to dance disco in the 70s and the late 70s. I mean, I was like this, and so that's all we knew. And then when my mom remarried, it was, my stepdad was like, you're not listening to this garbage. You're going to listen to Heart and Dan Fogelberg and Ozzy Osbourne and Scorpion and all of that was and it was like, oh my gosh, this is so completely different. So by the time I was like 8, that is what we were exposed to. So it's interesting, I am not somebody who even sometimes puts on music in the car because I'm so up in my head. So, my husband often says, you just don't even care what you listen to. But I like a lot of different kinds of music, I think, because of that. It's hard to narrow it down.
It really is, I mean,
sometimes you need a little Beyonce.
I agree. I mean, and again, you're not judging your choices or other people's choices. You have, there's just a lot more freedom to just enjoy it, you know? With my band, we were writing this song, and I was like, I feel like there needs to be a rap right here. And they all just looked at me like, what?
And who's going to do that, Jennifer?
I'm just here. So I kind of spout off, and it was like, they were like, okay. So we started calling it a rap-ish, because I was like, okay, let's call it a rap-ish, because I'm not really like a rapper, I can't really pull it off, I was doing my darndest, but so we called it a rap-ish, but now it's kind of transformed, so now we have this idea, one of our non-singers in our band is going to do more spoken word. And we love
spoken word is so cool.
Over kind of the rhythmic elements that we're creating with the instruments. And it's cool, if you just let yourself kind of, explore that. And so we started to talk about let's think of references so that we could kind of know what that sounds like, like Bono does a little bit of that, R.E.M., all these different people, they kind of have this kind of, it's still sort of poetic and, musical in a way. But they're just talking,
Right.
So,
That's awesome. I love that. So what are your favorite sources of inspiration?
Musically.
For music, yes.
Okay. Oh, gosh. For creating music, in the children's world,
Yeah.
Dan Zanes is great. Elizabeth Mitchell, although she doesn't always write her own music, these are just some inspirations of mine. And Pete Seeger, of course. What do you got? Like like kind of the old timey, children's music still holds up, I think, and still really speaks to children. So, but I like to kind of put more of a sort of a modern spin on it,
Right.
So I guess I don't know where that comes from. Honestly,
Right.
I guess it's just my own, gathering all the information and throwing it in my own songs, and I'm not always sure where it comes from. Does that make sense? But it's funny. I'm looking at Mr. Rogers here. Like, I mean, honestly, like I don't know if you watched that movie.
I haven't
oh
yet.
my
No.
gosh, it's so good. Yes, so good. And just again, the imaginations of children are just inspiring every single day, honestly, So that's where I get inspiration for my own music in the children's world. For our band, the lyrics often come from something that we're going through, and we try to just put it together in a creative, poetic way, and that speaks to us, because ultimately if it speaks to you, it's going to speak to somebody else too, and so, I like, one of the bands that I love is Walk Off the Earth. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. They were the ones, they covered Gautier's song, and they were all on the guitar.
Yeah. I watched that. Yeah.
Yeah, they are incredibly creative. And they do a lot of covers because that gets you exposure on YouTube, but they have their own stuff, and it's amazing. And their imaginations are just endless. Like, they'll just, with a couple of the band members have kids, and they'll take their kids' instruments, like a little xylophone, and include it like in their song, So I get a lot of inspiration from just watching them at how much they play with it still, and even though they've gotten to a place where they have quite a following, and but they're still not afraid to play. They're like, no, this is what we do. We're going to do it in our own way, and that's it.
Awesome.
So,
yeah, that's great. And so we're just about wrapped up. So how can people find you? All the different places.
Okay.
If they're local, she's in Providence, Rhode Island. But yeah, how can people reach out to you, come take a class, find your CD, support you, one of your dive bars?
That's right, absolutely. So my music classes are here on the east side of Providence, and you can find me at eastsidemusictogether.com. And if you are not in Rhode Island or not in Providence, you just go to the musictogether.com site, and they will, and you put in your zip code and find some classes. And I cannot speak highly enough. I took it first as a parent and loved it so much I started teaching it. So
wow, yeah.
It's just really a great program. But if you don't have Music Together, certainly look at other music programs. Most everybody will, I know I allow people to try out a class for free because I want people to know what they're getting into rather than paying for a whole session. Or over the summer, I've been running drop-in classes. Tomorrow I have some at Temple Bethel on the east side here at 9:30 and 10:30. And that gives people a way to kind of say, oh, okay, this is what this is about. And I don't have to commit to a whole session of classes, So that's one place you can find me. My own children's CD is Just Pickin' Flowers. And I'm working on my website right now, so that's not up. But you can find me on Facebook, Just Pickin' Flowers, or Jen Havens Romanat. And check out my music there. I'm on SoundCloud. I'm on Spotify. I'm on every streaming device. But if you want to support me and buy a CD, you can get that on Amazon or iTunes.
Awesome.
So, and all of those places, of course, you can listen to it first to see if that's something that you like, And then my band, we don't have a website yet either, but we do have a SoundCloud page. It's called thepersisters.com, not just Persisters. Also on Facebook, The Persisters. And we are likely to be playing in the fall. We're still nailing down the date at the Parlor on North Main Street in Providence, Rhode Island.
Awesome. When you have that, we'll add it to the show notes and everything else.
Great.
And the website. And thank you so much for chatting with me. It was so much fun, kind of connecting. You know, we've been Facebook friends for a long time. We connected through the homeschooling community, but you know, it was kind of fun to catch up. And our kids are about the same age, and watched each other's kids grow up on Facebook mostly last few years. Thank God for Facebook for that, anyways.
I know, right?
You get to stay connected with people. So,
for sure. Well, I so admire what you're doing. Like I told you before, I really do. You know, we haven't always been able to be involved because of the timing of things with our kids, and where we are located. But I just really, what she's doing is amazing.
Oh, thank you. We're having a great time. We're really having fun. So, all right. Thanks, Let's Play group, and we will catch you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of Let's Play, Supporting Screen Time Alternatives video series, featuring professionals who make offline time more manageable. You can watch these episodes live every Monday at 12 p.m. in our Let's Play Facebook community, where you can also participate in discussions and Facebook Live Q&A sessions and demonstrations. You can find me, Kristen Kalina, on our Mastermind Adventures Facebook page, or by emailing info@mastermindadventures.com. If you're in the southern Massachusetts or Rhode Island area, drop by our game lounge and Nerf Arena in the Swansea Mall and say hello. You can also find the show notes and a recap of every episode by visiting our website, mastermindadventures.com, under the Parent Portal. We'll see you next week.